What is the ancestral origin of the scleral show? As we look at some reported ancient manifestations of the scleral show and more modern manifestations of the scleral show in terms of phenotype, what is also noted is that the scleral show often is accompanied by what appears to be a slight Habsburg phenotype dynamic with an underbite. That's not always the case, but it is often the case. And here you see this iconic representation of the scleral show. And the line provides a demarcation so that you can see when the scleral show is being manifested. This article discusses the scleral show. What is noted is that there is a lack of clarity regarding the origin of the scleral show. We've addressed this group before. This is the Amorites or the Amori, and these are supposed to be ancient depictions of this particular collective. And in terms of ancient depictions, they provide some of the earliest representations of this scleral show with respect to the eyes. And there is a pattern of representing the Amorites or the Amori with the scleral show, and you see that manifested here again. And here you see an additional depiction of what's supposed to be an Amorite or an Amori with the scleral show. One thing to keep in mind, just in case you have forgotten, is that the Amorites or the Amori are associated with the highlands. And so they are associated with this idea of loftiness, this idea of being highlanders. And even though the scleral show is supposed to be rare, it is noted in a number of individuals of prominence. And so, of course, here you see this manifestation of what's supposed to be Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam is represented with a significant scleral show. The scleral show is often noted at the bottom of the eye. However, when you look over to the left-hand side, you see another manifestation of it where you see the scleral show at the top of the eye. Now, in terms of historic people groups, the scleral show is most noted in the people group known as the Moors. Not only do you see the scleral show in terms of the heraldry depiction here at the bottom, you see it at the top and you see it on the sides. And so this depiction is very similar in many ways to the depictions of the Amorites that we were looking at initially. Again, you see this scleral show associated with depictions of Moors in Europe. You see this representation with respect to the monarchy in Europe. You also see some more Eastern representations with respect to the Moors, but consistently you are seeing this scleral show dynamic associated with these entities that are identified as prominent. Again, you see these manifestations with respect to heraldry of the Moors, or those identified as Moor in Europe, with the scleral show. What's also noteworthy with respect to the heraldry dynamic is that there are many depictions with the person identified as Moor in heraldry with the Moor's head with the eyes actually covered. And so in some instances you see the scleral show, and then in some instances the eyes are actually covered. Again, there is this correlation between the Moor and the scleral show. You even see it with this fish that has been named the black moor fish. So these are two side views actually. But what you see here is this manifestation of the enlarged eye and the scleral show. And here is another depiction of the black moor fish. The scleral show is often noted in individuals who are identified as European, who are brown, particularly in the areas associated with Scotland. And so these are individuals who are associated with the Harry Potter film narrative. And so what you see here is a high representation of individuals with significant scleral show um, being represented in the Harry Potter series. And here you can see it more clearly. And here you see additional people from that part of the world representing that area of Scotland with this significant scleral show, in keeping with the manifestations that you saw with the entities identified as Moor. And here again, you see another individual of prominence with the scleral show and an exaggerated scleral show that is at the top this particular time. Again, the scleral show is often noted in individuals of prominence, and you see this here with these two individuals. And here you see additional manifestations of the scleral show. Sometimes when individuals have the scleral show, it gives the sleepy appearance. And so you can see that particularly on the right-hand side. And here you see additional prominent people in history with the scleral show. And here is another entertainer with the scleral show at the bottom. And also make note of the manifestation of a slight Habsburg dynamic for many of these depictions. And so if you look at them very carefully, you will see a slight underbite dynamic for many of the individuals with the scleral show. And these are additional entertainers with the scleral show, one at the top and one at the bottom. And this particular individual not only has a scleral show, but also has the epicanthic fold that is noted in many indigenous people. And here you have two very prominent individuals with the manifestation of the scleral show at the bottom, and there's also the manifestation of a slight underbite. These individuals were on different continents, but you can also see the manifestations of the scleral show at the bottom for both of these individuals. You can also see the slight underbite for both individuals. There is a significant similarity with respect to the phenotype of these two individuals, the scleral show and the slight underbite. And again, these are individuals that are from two different continents. However, you still see this manifestation of the scleral show for both of them, and also that slight underbite. And the individual on the left is the same individual that was just in the previous depiction. As with the male depictions, you also have a number of depictions of scleral show with prominent females. And you see this with the prominent female on the right-hand side and also the left-hand side, and also a slight manifestation of an underbite. And here we have two additional prominent females manifesting the scleral show at the bottom. The one on the left has a significant scleral show, not just on the bottom, but also to the left and the right. And also both of these individuals have a slight underbite. And here we have two additional females of prominence with the scleral show at the bottom. And also on the right-hand side, you can see the manifestation of the underbite. And on the right-hand side, you see a young male with significant scleral show. Now, the scleral show does not seem to have limitations with respect to ethnicities or with respect to parts of the world. There are manifestations of individuals with the scleral show all over. However, there is a concentration, an apparent concentration of the scleral show in certain collectives of people. And here are two additional depictions of the scleral show. Both scleral shows are at the bottom. And here are two additional depictions of the scleral show. Both of these are at the bottom. Not only is the scleral show noted in a number of individuals of prominence, The scleral show is also given prominence, and so that manifestation, that phenotype dynamic, is elevated. Not only is it elevated with respect to art, but you also see manifestations of the scleral show being elevated with respect to representations of, for instance, Uncle Sam, and also represented in the form of currency.